Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and the Ripple Insights blog that's on your screen right now, titled Staying the Course in Remittances and SME Payments, nearly caused the entire world to end. It almost went explode and all gone. At least that's what you would think if you've been on crypto Twitter since yesterday. And I'm going to explain why. So for those of you that missed it, don't worry, I will get you caught up to speed here. I made a video about this yesterday, but there's a whole bunch of new stuff to run through. And so that's what I'm going to dedicate this video to. But just to make sure everybody's caught up, there are 3 or 4 sentences in this piece that I do want to read just to make sure that the table is properly set for anybody that missed that. But other than that, I don't plan on doing a whole lot of rehashing of the content that I put out yesterday. Maybe there'll be a small bit of overlap, but it's pretty much all new stuff. It really is. And this piece ultimately resulted in a number, and you may have seen this if you're in crypto Twitter and in the XRP community. You may have noticed this if you spent a little time on the Twitters today and yesterday. There are people questioning whether or not, because of this piece apparently, which wasn't even related to this, but I think it kind of stemmed all sorts of fears. That's my best guess anyway. People are questioning whether or not MoneyGram is still a question. Not question. They're questioning whether MoneyGram is a customer of Ripple's. And I saw this from multiple people, and it actually got the attention of a senior vice president working at Ripple who responded to that very question, actually. And I'm not going to make you wait to hear the answer. I'm going to give you the specifics later in the video, but I will tell you right now, I don't want to tease it too much here. The answer is yes, MoneyGram is still a customer, okay? There's just so much that's overblown here. Also, we've got David Schwartz, who was fleshing out the concept behind this piece. And again, I need to properly set the table, but I will tell you that the concerns that really lit up the community that came from this piece, and again, it was just a few sentences, David Schwartz did add some additional perspective, which is very nice, so you can get a better understanding as to what led to all this. But before we go any further, if you would please delicately tap that like button. It's good for the YouTube algorithm for my channel, so if you're willing to do so, know that I would very much so genuinely appreciate that. And also, if you're a fan of not overreacting to news and just, basing your buying and selling decisions on emotion rather than, crazy hype or what you think might be bad news from a Ripple Insights blog piece, then go ahead and subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel, because you and I think alike. So I'm just going to scroll down, and so this piece was written by Ashish Burla, a Ripple employee here, one of Ripple's original employees, and this one's titled Staying the Course in Remittances and SME Payments, which would be Small Medium Enterprise Payments. So let me scroll down to the part that really lit everything on fire here, which I have to tell you, I saw that things were on fire before I read this, I'll be honest with you. So like a lot of the rest of the community got their hands on this and read through it before I had a chance to. But I think, had I just read this without realizing how some people are going to perceive it, I would have read through this and be like, oh, cool, so there's a shift in Ripple's approach, cool. That would have pretty much been the entirety of my reaction to that. And I'll explain why further in just a moment here. But here's the part that was the problem. While the world changes around us, Ripple is staying the course. We are continuing to focus on supporting low-value, high-frequency payments with on-demand liquidity, though transaction volume may look different in this new world. So that's part of it. Check out these next 2 sentences. I think it's 2, right? Yeah. And this is the worst of it, apparently, as far as the community is concerned. And it's not everybody in the community, by the way. I think that I don't want to make it out like it's everybody, but it's enough people that you're going to see it in your Twitter feed. That's it. So let's stand that. So here it goes. In particular, we are reducing emphasis on large treasury payments, which are traditionally used to fund businesses and services in the absence of real-time transfers to support individual low-value transactions, addressing the growing need in remittances and SME payments. This may reduce overall on-demand liquidity transaction volumes. There you go. And that's right there. Those few sentences are what led a notable, and again, it's not a majority by any means, but a notable, certainly noticeable, a number of XRP community members to question if it's safe to be investing in XRP, and question if Ripple has a viable business model. Some people did take it that far. To me, that's too much. I did not remotely. You want to know what my response was? Let me share this with you here. And here's one of them. So I got tagged in this retweet by All the Way 08, who was an XRP community member, and he wrote hashtag XRP and then tagged me and wrote, "This is what I'm talking about." And so here's a tweet from @block_real. "How can anybody believe in XRP? Like, seriously. We all have been duped into believing it will reach all-time high. Price drop imminent. Sorry for spreading false hope to my followers. If you believe in it, it's okay. No hate for me. Block X, signing off." And so there you go. That's a little taste of what I've been seeing all over my Twitter feed since yesterday. And so I just responded initially. I'm not going to read this whole thread, but there are 2 tweets I wrote that I do want to share with you. The first one was, I wrote, "I've seen some very emotional comments over the past 24 hours or so." Oh, that's certainly true. Let me scroll down a little bit further and explain. This will help you understand my mindset and why I did not even almost have any sort of response like that. Now, for those of you that don't know, I've owned my own company for over 10 years. We had our 10-year anniversary in January. And I got to tell you, the business model that I had when I started my company, it worked for a few years, and then the industry shifted, and it was no longer a viable model and had to change. So here's what sometimes you have to adapt. So here's what I wrote. Because Ripple's adapting too, and it's not even that their business model was falling apart. It wasn't even that severe. I encountered something more severe. So here's what I wrote. "I've been a business owner for over 10 years. In that time, there have been instances that required major course corrections surrounding our business model and direction. Didn't mean we were failing. Rather, we were adapting, which led to success. Ripple is doing the same here." And I still believe firmly that's true. Now, mine was, and like my business, it kept working, but I saw the writing on the wall, and I saw that if I didn't make a change, another year or 2 down the road, I didn't know if I'd still be in business. And so I completely changed everything. And it wasn't even that serious for Ripple. And these are smart people here, and they have legitimate customers that aren't going anywhere because there's real utility to XRP being used as a bridge currency with Ripple's on-demand liquidity. It's not going away, guys. It just isn't. So even if there's an approach that they were taking with the utilization of XRP where they deem it now to not be worthwhile to go after, at least for the time being, so what? If things have changed or they came to a realization and decided that this particular part of their approach no longer makes sense, don't you want them to go in the proper direction? Doesn't this mean that they've figured it out, or at least they think they have, and they've got an approach that's going to be that much better? That's how I read it. And so to me, this whole flipping out over all this is just nonsensical. And then I want to say also thank you to All the Way 08 for tagging me in this thread, which David Schwartz was tweeting, and he's got probably several tweets or so. And so here's his take on this. So this is Ripple's tweet sharing the Ripple Insights blog that was written by Ashish Burla. And then there's somebody named, he's @FFatMedia on the Twitters here, and he tagged David Schwartz and wrote, "Seems this has caused a bit of anxiety." Yeah, that's an understatement. "Are you able to offer any further clarity? Thanks." And David Schwartz saw that and actually did respond, which I very much appreciate. And so here's what David Schwartz wrote. He's the CTO of Ripple and co-creator of the XRP Ledger. "It was always our preference to handle smaller payments directly, rather than handling larger payments that are later divided into smaller ones. Some partners weren't willing to let us handle their retail payments directly until we could prove that the technology worked reliably. Treasury operations were safer because customers weren't waiting for them to complete. There's an obvious advantage to handling larger payments. If you think the size of the payment measures its economic importance or relevance, then big payments mean big dollar numbers. But handling lots of smaller payments has advantages too. They're just subtler. A big one is that it's stickier. The benefits are pushed all the way down to the customer, and then it becomes more than just a replaceable tiny cog in a big machine. You also need to prove lower fixed costs to handle smaller payments, and the benefits flow more directly to those who need them, who most need them. I'd encourage people to give some thought to the relative advantages and disadvantages of more dollar value versus more individual payments, particularly in the remittance context. It's not clear cut." And I appreciate the additional insights. I think he's being quite forthright, and it gives you something to think about. And this is not a "the sky is falling, the world is ending" type of thread here. It's like, hey, this is not exactly so clear cut. Here's the things that you should probably analytically think through before spouting off a bunch of emotional reactions. There you go. I mean, he didn't say that. I'm saying that now, but still. So what about this business about MoneyGram not being a customer? of Ripple's anymore, which it was just a stupid rumor, okay? Well, Ashish Burla, senior vice president at Ripple, addressed it and wrote the following. MoneyGram continues to be an active on-demand liquidity customer. And you're exactly right, it's more important that we see growth in terms of number of transactions versus notional volume increase. We believe that's where payment growth is in the future. And in parentheses, he writes, think MasterCard and Visa. Both companies are very successful and focus on low-value payments. And fair enough. So they just continue to figure out what the best approach is. And if you think it's unreasonable for them to learn over time and shift their course as they realize more about the market based on real data, if you think that that's not reasonable, you might want to rethink things, because that's not how business works. Things are messy in business. And this wasn't even that messy. This wasn't a big deal. It really, really is not. Now, it wasn't all bad news. We got this piece which came as a result of the Ripple Insights blog. This is from the Daily Hodl, and this one was titled Ripple plans to open new XRP remittance corridors this year. So yes, there was tons of good news in that piece too. And so take a look at this quote. The Ripple executive, and they're talking about Ashish Burla here, says the company is en route to linking new countries to on-demand liquidity in 2020. So what do you know? They're still building out RippleNet. They're still building out the portion of RippleNet on-demand liquidity that utilizes XRP as a bridge currency. Oh my God, but the sky is falling. Everything's on fire. Well, here's the quote from Ashish Burla. Ripple is on track to open new ODL corridors this year, and we're onboarding new customers and working with existing customers to ramp up on-demand liquidity volume in important corridors, including USD to Mexican peso, USD to Philippine peso, Australian dollar to US dollar, and Philippine peso, and from euro to United States dollar. So what do you know? Positive stuff happening here. Somehow, though, I guess, it seems to me, because it was those few sentences I read at the very beginning of the video, that was what was taken. It was copy and pasted by a bunch of people into Twitter, and then retweeted and retweeted and retweeted. I'm not sure how many people actually read the whole piece. There was all sorts of good stuff in the piece. And just taken out of context, maybe it made it more likely that people were going to overreact, but still, it's just kind of silly buns if you ask me. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. So if you were one of the people that were freaking out, it's okay. It's not like I think you're stupid. I would just encourage you to, take some deep breaths, and then make sure that before you have react to something based on emotion, make sure that you've armed yourself with all available knowledge and gotten perspective from people on opposing sides, basically. That's how I treat everything in life. But before I have a firm opinion about anything, I want to hear pros and cons for pretty much everything. So you can listen to people that think that this was terrible for Ripple, people that think that it's good for Ripple, people that think that it's kind of neutral for Ripple. Whatever the opinions are, just get as much information into your brain as possible before letting whatever emotion you felt affect what you say and do. That's just my humble opinion. I think that's a good way to treat pretty much anything that you come across in life. Just saying. That's what I've learned in my 37 years. But that's it for this video. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!